Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Candid Conversations, and today I'm really excited, actually we're both really excited, because we have an amazing guest. This is Dale Anderson! Oh.
The crowd goes wild.
He is an author, he's a teacher, you are a father, grandfather.
Yeah.
You know, the first time I met Dale was he was teaching one of my Bible classes. That was one of the most impactful classes that I've had, is when you shared what you're about to share today. I literally came home from your class and was like, I wish Dale was my dad. Is that weird? Is that weird? But I did say that. I was also like 20 years old. But yeah, so just so you know, your classes were awesome. So you have written a book.
Yeah, called Mercy Wins.
It's called Mercy Wins. Give us a little synopsis of what your book is about.
Yeah, sure. Mercy Wins just comes from James 2:13, where it talks about mercy triumphs over judgment. It's almost like a book that you would think is like, I'll say it this way, pearls on a string. So different chapters, different vignettes, stories of mercy, either from our family or from the Bible or other people. And all I'm really trying to do is just give different snapshots of how God has touched the lives of people with the mercy of God.
Yeah.
And so one of the stories is the story of my daughter, which is such a formative story in our home.
So we're going to be giving one of you a free book, and actually this is really special because they're actually only available on Amazon in ebook format.
Yeah,
but we're going to be giving away a physical copy. So all you need to do is like this video and also comment below your thoughts on what we're talking about, or if you have any questions, or if you have any ideas for future video. That's how you enter. Super easy. Let's get into the rest of the video.
Okay.
You adopted a baby girl.
Yes. This was in 1991.
1991.
Yeah, so a while ago.
What led you and your wife to go towards adoption?
Okay, so my wife and I in 90, we go to a camp, a church camp in Poland, and we just arrived, right? And I've got one foot still in the car, like 8-hour drive, and one foot on the ground when the pastor comes and he says, you guys have the perfect passports, take this car, go to this address in Germany and pick up 300 Romanian Bibles and take them to this address in Romania, right? And you'll be perfect. It's like, can I eat a meal? Can I sleep overnight? Do I have to leave right now?
They gave you a mission.
They gave me a mission, and here was the deal. My wife and I both knew instantly that we were supposed to do it. Mm-hmm. And so the next day we left. And so that was our introduction to Romania, where we found our daughter. And so what happened was we do it. We take the Bibles, we go to Romania. And this is such the funny part of the story, one of the funny parts. We go to Romania for 5 days, interacting, and I mean, such a eye-opening experience. It was very dramatic. And we're leaving Romania, and we're at the Romanian border, and my wife is just like, whoa, crying, uncontrolled, like sobbing.
Hyperventilating.
Yes. And our passports are different. I'm American, she's Canadian at this time, because neither of us have dual citizenship yet, right? And they think I'm trafficking a woman. Because we're in the north of Romania.
Oh, no.
And all of the women in the north are mostly blonde hair, blue-eyed, because a lot of the influence comes out of the Ukraine.
Oh.
And we're at the border. They have me out of the car, at the back of the car. They've got 3 border guards around me as one is trying to talk to my wife. Are you okay?
Wow.
Is this man taking you?
Oh my gosh.
Like,
She's like, no, the Lord is just moving on me.
So I say to her, I shout out to her, Cheryl, they think I'm trafficking you. And she goes, and she calms down, and she goes, she points to her ring, my husband, like this. And so, like 35, 40 minutes at the border. I'm fortunately not arrested.
Oh my God.
They give us our passports, go. And so we drive down the road around the corner so they can't see me pull over to the side of the road as I'm now going, okay, all right. And I turn to her and I say, what is your problem? They almost put me in jail back there, And she's going, we're leaving behind something so precious, right? And it would have been the time that our daughter Bethany was conceived.
Wow.
And the Lord was visiting her with the mother's heart of God for her.
Wow. That's amazing.
And so that would have been August of 90. Bethany was born in 91. And so we didn't know any of that, but Cheryl has this resting on her heart. We come home from Europe completely changed. Cheryl is unconsolable. There would be days she would just burst into tears. I have a daughter in Romania somewhere,
Whoa.
And it was very dramatic. And so finally one night we're just at home. Jordan's in bed by this time, and we put him
That's
to bed.
your son.
That's my
How
son.
How old is he at the time?
He's now 31. At that time, he
at that time. I was like, he was...
Yeah, no. At that time, he would have been about 3.
Okay.
Yeah. And Cheryl and I were talking, and she said, do you think we could just adopt a girl from Romania? I went to say no, and my mouth said yes.
Whoa.
And so
That's not what you were.
That's huge.
That's not what you were planning on saying.
No, it wasn't what I was planning on saying. And we had no money. The night we made the decision, we had $100 in our bank account. This is another funny story. The next day, she was a registered nurse. She's pushing Jordan down the street in the stroller, right, counting on her fingers. Okay, I'll do this many shifts. It'll cost us this much money. We'll do this. And she's got her head down. She's pushing the stroller, and bam, into a light post.
What?
Breaks the stroller, breaks the axle on the stroller, and guess how much a new stroller cost? $100.
What you had left.
Which is what we had left.
Oh my gosh.
And so we have to get a new stroller. I can't fix it. It's unrepairable. And so we start the whole journey with no money in our bank account.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we, just one step after another, we finally get to the place where we get our paperwork, we get our release to go, but now we need to go find a child. And so we're getting prepared to go, and I came home from work one afternoon. I was a school teacher, and Cheryl was in our bedroom crying with suitcases open and all this stuff, and like, what's going on? She says, I don't know how to go into an orphanage. And out of all of the kids there, that's my kid. And Cheryl's the type, she doesn't walk in and go, oh, there's my child. She walks in, 20 of them? Okay, I'll take 20.
Yeah.
That's her heart. That's where she's at. And she was burdened by it. And so I got down on my knees and I said, Lord, help us. You know Cheryl's heart. I remember hearing so clearly, you will find her in a hospital, not in an orphanage, right? And the next one came, boom, you will find her born to a young mother, And then the third one, boom, hits my heart. He said, you will find I've saved her from an abortion. Wow. And so off she goes to Romania, and it's exactly as it happens. She's there. She had been to an orphanage. It was just not a good situation. And she came home that night, and there was a knock on the door late. And a nurse was coming off shift, and she said, is that Canadian woman still here? The doctor told me to tell her that there's a baby girl that's been abandoned at the hospital.
Wow. And
that he's going to send her to the orphanage the next day unless the Canadian woman comes and takes her,
Wow.
And so that was like clue number 1,
yeah.
right? And Cheryl goes the next morning to the hospital super early, meets the doctor, meets the nurse, another nurse. And the nurse says, through interpreter, don't take that baby. She'll be stupid like her mother is stupid. And Cheryl said, what do you mean? And she said, I sent that young girl for an abortion, and she wouldn't do it, right?
Whoa.
And Cheryl said, what do you mean young girl? She said, yeah, the birth mother of this little girl was 16 when she gave birth to our daughter.
Yeah.
So all 3, within like a 12-hour period, now she's in a hospital, born to a young mother, and she was spared from an abortion. And Cheryl said, I'll take her.
She's mine.
That's the one.
And the nurse and the doctor went, really? Because Bethany was in poor shape. She was 11 days old, hadn't been cleaned from her birth yet.
What?
Yeah.
They just don't.
Well, it was at that time, it was a pressured situation. Eastern Europe was struggling, and we began our life with her.
Can you share a little bit about how dramatic it was, and share a little bit of experiences, but also emotionally what you guys were going through as parents?
Yeah, I mean, I'm by by profession a school teacher, Cheryl a nurse. It was very clear early on in Bethany's life as she began living with us that, you always, when you adopt, you're always concerned about attachment disorder and the bonding process. Mm-hmm. And it was very, very clear that the bonding process with Bethany was failing. She didn't want to be held. She didn't want to be touched. Normal babies, you bond with them by holding them, nursing them, or feeding them their bottle. And she didn't want to be held for her bottle. In fact, her most comfortable posture was laying on her back, me holding the bottle, making sure that she didn't lose it or choke on her formula. She just did not want to be held.
This was at a few months?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, like from the moment we had her, she just didn't like it. She was very restless.
So she had the inability to attach.
Yeah, she wasn't attaching at all. Wow. And we took her to the doctors just to make sure everything was fine. Physiologically, she was fine. She was a little bit undernourished, but she was a little bit small for her age. But she just needed some food and some care and some love. Mm-hmm. And so she would take the food and the care, but she wouldn't take the love.
Yeah.
In the midst of all of that, I think the Lord created this amazing rescue plan for our family.
Could you expound on what you guys were dealing with her attachment disorder, and expound on that a little bit more?
Attachment disorder is this sense of where bonding isn't taking place, and quite commonly what happens, though not always, there's a lot of anger, rage. As a baby, it was crying and so forth, so, and very hard to console, so we took her to the doctor thinking maybe she had colic or she was colicky, right? And so that's one thing. As she started to get older and mature, now she's, 15 months old, 18 months old. Mm-hmm. Now she's walking, and now she's, hitting, she's scratching, she's biting,
she's very aggressive.
She's very aggressive. And predominantly with attachment disorder, not always, but predominantly as it starts to get more aggressive, it'll come out especially towards the parent mostly, or the caregiver of the same gender, right?
Oh.
So Cheryl was receiving, Bethany was okay with me. She wasn't angry, or she wouldn't do any of that with me, but mostly with Cheryl. I mean, I'd come home, Cheryl would have scratches on her face and bite marks and so forth. I mean, it was an intense season. Really and in the midst of all of that, we get called to Poland. So I was thinking, is there anything we can do? Is there any help group or whatever we can go to deal with the violent nature of it, the aggressive nature of it? Behavior modification, all that. I was a school teacher. I wasn't thinking man of faith. I was thinking school teacher.
And so a lot of that attachment disorder, I mean, that started at a young age because I mean, we're talking like
infancy.
The moment she's born, with a daughter who was, left, not clean, not taken care of. The first few days that she's there, her mom abandons her. She's not taken care of. She's told that she's going to be dumb.
Right.
Like, this is at an age that we would say cognitively,
it doesn't matter.
They're not thinking.
Correct.
But in those few days,
correct,
it set her on a course that even with a loving family, she's dealing with inability to receive love.
Yes.
So were there any moments that you're like just at your knees, like, what are we gonna do? Like, was this a mistake?
I didn't feel like we had made a mistake. I just felt like we were in an intense crucible. And Lord, what do? We go to Poland, we make that move, and that's where it escalates even more.
Wow.
So Cheryl's now no longer nursing. She's, as a regular nurse, I mean, she's in a different language group. So she's at home with the kids as a stay-at-home mom. We get Jordan. He's young. He's 4 years old, 4.5, and so we get him into a preschool. So he's flourishing. He's doing so well, and so Cheryl's at home with Bethany alone, and Bethany's, Cheryl's Bethany's target, and so, and it was intense, and so, I mean, it got hard. A couple of times I'd walk through the door from work and I'd hear the timer on the oven, on the stove, go off, but there would be nothing baking. And so finally one day I said to Cheryl, I said, why why does the timer go off so often when I walk through the door? She said, it is so hard some afternoons. I know that you're always coming home at a specific time, and I set the timer for 15 minutes. I know I've got 15 minutes before you walk through the door. I know I just need to survive another 15 minutes.
Whoa.
That's how intense it was.
Gosh.
Yeah, and so it was really, really hard. We didn't have a support group. We didn't have any information. We didn't know what was going on. We just knew something wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brutal. And so, that's when I started to get on my knees. When you've exhausted every other option, pray.